So today, everybody, we're talking about apartment marketing strategies for spring 2021. And one of the, I think we have some interesting data points that kind of point to a little bit of a different spring, at least early spring, not even kind of like in the winter, January, February than we've seen in the past. COVID is still having its effect on, seasonality and what people are doing. And so we have some cool data points for that. With all that said, let's go ahead and get started. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Andrew Cederland. I'm the Chief Operating Officer here at Conversion Logix. And then joining me is Joe Carino. Joe, if you want to say hi.
Hello, everyone. My name is Joe Carino. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer here. And thank you for joining us today. We look forward to sharing some great information.
Great. So us at Conversion Logix, we're a digital media agency and a software company. And apologize if you've gone to all of our webinars and we keep saying the same thing, but we always just want to bring everyone and have them understand a little bit about us and where we are pulling this data from and kind of what we do. And so we're a digital marketing agency focused on serving the housing industry. And we also have a SaaS ad tech solution called the Conversion Cloud, which is a lead gen tool. So we want to drive the best quality traffic to our clients' websites and then help them convert it. And so that's kind of the name of the game for us. And so we get to kind of look at a lot of that data that we're able to see and hopefully give you some insights as to what to expect this spring. So today we're going to be talking about seasonal marketing trends. Then we're going to go into the top performing spring ad examples, some of the things that we're seeing really outperform kind of the typical average benchmarks that we see. And then Joe's going to talk about building your spring strategy. So how do we take all these trends and actually put it into practice? And then he'll also talk you through a couple of next steps. And then we'll do Q&A after the fact. And then before we launch in, I'm going to go ahead and just launch a poll. And I'd love to hear from you all as sort of what are you seeing at your communities? Are you seeing things pretty slow? Are they steady as they go? Or is it, crazy busy? Are you seeing a big surge? And so I'm going to launch this poll. And so, is it crickets? It's so quiet you can hear crickets chirping. It's steady. Or is it, holy cow, we can't even keep up?
Who came up with the answers, Andrew?
These cricket steady or holy cow?
Yeah.
that was me. I'll take credit for that.
I love it. I like the holy cow one. And especially that you did the hands,
Holy cow. All right, we'll give it another second here. All right, I'm going to end the poll and then I'm going to share results here. So it looks like pretty much everyone says that things are pretty steady. A couple of crickets, things a little quiet. No one is overwhelmed. So hopefully that's a good thing, but hopefully some of these steady eddies we'll see, creep up into getting some more action at your community, especially based on some of the things that we're seeing here as far as search activity goes. A lot of that, it's a little bit of a leading indicator as to what's going to come down the pipeline for you and your community. So, thank you for filling that out. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about some of the trends that we see. So Joe and I were actually talking about this yesterday or the day before, but this is almost 1 year exactly to when we started doing these webinars, and it really came out of a place of wanting to understand what was happening, what were people searching for, what was changing during COVID. And so we actually were doing these every single week for about 2 months, I think. It was just because, I know it feels like forever ago, but back in March, April, and even into May, there was so much uncertainty about, are people still going to, be renting? Are they going to be moving? What's happening? And for a little while, no one could do anything. And then we started to see, renters still taking similar actions, though in slightly different ways than they did in years previous. And so the first chart that we have here is 2020 to 2021 average daily organic sessions. And so this is the average daily amount of people that are going to apartment community websites for each month. And so you can see here the average February is 44, January is 42. And then you can see kind of the seasonal trend over the last 12 months as well. And so one of the things to note is this is sort of the COVID effect right here. And so as we came out of January, February last year, there was a lot of momentum, and then COVID just, forced everyone to hit the brakes. And so the drop came, and then I think March actually recovered. Initially, 1 week in March, it was down, huge, and then it kind of recovered back to a somewhat normal level. But there was a little bit of a time where no one was doing much of anything. And so this is kind of the COVID effect, where normally you see this kind of continue up into the summer leasing season and then gradually come back down like we normally would expect. This drops, and then we start to see it slowly climb back up. Had a little bit of a later peak in the leasing season, and then it starts to drop back down. And so the big thing that I wanted to highlight here is really just how strong the search intent is right now. There's a huge amount of people out there searching. We can see that February, it's a short month, and it already had more, it already beat the high from last summer. And so I think that bodes really well for kind of what we're expecting to see over, March, April, May, as people really start to make some decisions and continue their research process. Another piece to look at that's kind of interesting is the average number of store visits. And this is coming from paid search. This is Google aggregated data. So you can see here, January, February dropping down, COVID, people aren't going on site anymore. And then you can see it starts to climb back up. One of the reasons that these are higher later in the season is that, well, one, people, this was when a lot of stay-at-home orders were lifted kind of last summer in the fall. And then there was kind of the resurgence of COVID cases in November and December, which caused people to kind of go back in. But also this data is lagging a little bit. So, they might show up, but we're not going to see that reflected in the data for another couple of months. So that's also why we don't have February data. So we have January because it's been long enough that we can say, oh, somebody from a paid search ad has already shown up on site. But again, one thing I wanted to point out is that, 79, we're already much higher than we were this time last year. And so it's a good trend, and it's going to continue to kind of build up as we head into the summer. And then next, one of these big trends that we saw emerge with COVID is self-scheduled tours, virtual tours, really just flexible tour options in general. And so when you look at this again, here's our little COVID dip, and then just intense amount of action here of just, people wanting to be able to, tour virtually really, and pick and choose their time. And so this is data that we've seen, really just change over the course of the last 12 months is a big shift in how people think about the leasing journey. And this is almost a must-have now, whereas a year ago it was kind of a nice-to-have. And so in January and February, you can see again, we're starting to see the big increases, almost similar to what we saw last summer. One thing to note, February is lower, but it's a shorter month, and so it's still big numbers compared to what we saw last year. And even just anecdotally for us, from our Conversion Cloud platform, January was actually our highest lead month ever. We had 32,000 leads come through in January, and the previous high was last August, which you'd expect, leasing season, which was 30,700. And then February was almost 29,000. So really big months coming out to start 2021, which is great. So now on the paid media side, this is looking at paid search traffic and kind of the amount of sessions that are coming from traffic, as well as the cost per click that changes over the course of the year. And so usually what happens is during some of the slower seasons, cost per click will increase because there's not as many people searching. And so those searches are much more valuable. You have to bid up to get those. And then as summer comes around, there's a lot of people searching. The cost per click drops, sometimes 10, even like 20%, sometimes even more, as there's just so much search volume available. The auction becomes cheaper. And then usually it kind of increases back up. And so one of the things that is interesting to note is that we still have not returned to the same cost per click as we saw pre-COVID. And so, we can see here, this is the cost per click before COVID. COVID happens, kind of dips down. Obviously that coincides with more people searching, so the costs are going to be lower. But then even into this, you can see it start to rise back up. We really didn't see that same rise. It's still down, about 50 cents a click from what we would have seen last year. And so it's just interesting to note that, there's still a little bit of a gap there from what we saw pre-COVID, but that's a positive thing in that clicks are cheaper than they were before. And then we're seeing that continue to go down here in January and February. Obviously, huge amount of sessions coming in from paid search. Cost per click ticking up a little bit in February just because of the short month, and so those budgets are compressed, which makes bidding a little bit more competitive. But overall, we're seeing similar trends to what we've seen on the other charts in that January and February coming out strong. Next, we can talk about website leads from paid search. And so, really kind of similar to similar story to everything before. And, it's just showing you different data points, all kind of pointing to the same direction, is that, January and February coming out strong and looking like we're heading in for a good leasing season here, coming into really spring, April, May, June, and which is a good sign. Another thing that we'll start to see increase a lot more over the next few months is post-view conversion rates. And so for something like retargeting or any sort of targeted display that you might be doing at your community, one of the best ways to measure that is post-view conversions. And so, you're not going to get a lot of clicks on a banner ad. I know I don't really click on banner ads, but they do influence action. And so that's why we see this huge rise in the summertime as people start, taking more actions on websites, and we're starting to see that increase again here. And so having a post-view conversion rate of 0.75, and we should see that, do its typical swell up above 1% as we kind of head into, the leasing season for spring. And then again, this is paid social. So this is looking at Facebook and Instagram ad goal completions on Google Analytics. And so we can see that January and February are, again, started out strong. We're ahead of where we were last February, and we should be continuing up. Looks like trending higher than we were last year. We should see a higher peak than we saw in 2020. Another standout product in 2020 was YouTube. YouTube has turned into a really great conversion tool, and you can see it here, January and February, big increases over last year, and there's been a lot of improvements on the product to drive more conversions versus being a branding tool. And so we're seeing a lot of quality results from YouTube, and especially a lot of conversions, which is great. So you get the branding aspect as well as the conversion aspect. And so January was actually our highest month ever for results from YouTube. February was a little bit lower, but still on par with what we saw last summer. Before we go on, we have a couple questions come through, and since we just talked about YouTube, we have a question from somebody who says, people still watch YouTube. Surprised this is successful / effective. Yes, people do watch YouTube. Actually, more people watch YouTube than ever before, and the wider demographic watches it than ever before. And so YouTube used to be, I think, I don't know, cat videos or whatever people wanted to watch on there. But now there's a lot of series that people watch, podcasts, and really actual full-on shows that happen on YouTube, and the ads are performing really, really well. And then the other question is about the data. Is the self-scheduled tour data referencing virtual tours or just self-scheduling in person? It's really just, it's self-scheduling regardless of the type. And so it's more of that people are looking to make that process. It could be in person. It could also just be virtual. And so it's really more of that. It's an essential part of the process for them that they want to kind of pick their time and date. I don't have it sliced down for if it's virtual or in person, but I think that it's sort of just the flexible tour option itself is really just increased quite a bit. So now let's go ahead and talk about some of the top performing spring ad examples after we kind of look at the data. Okay, so we see some of that data, we see maybe a little bit of this pent up demand, and so how do we capitalize on that in our ads? And so the first examples of this I want to highlight are two examples of you're really calling out what you're near as far as like natural attractions go. I think people were really looking for natural space, open space during COVID. They didn't want to be trapped. They couldn't use any of the amenities. And so being able to highlight what you're around has really gone a long way to help build value of the location, not just the amenities included in your community. And you can see here, here's two examples that we saw extremely high click-through rates on, 8% and 7%, which is insane, way higher than search and much higher than what we typically see from a benchmark. And I think that this is a trend that's going to continue. And so if you're located near a walking trail or parks or anything like that, definitely make sure to try and highlight that to help get people a little bit, hopefully get them to convert. One more thing to kind of look at here is spring imagery. So it's time to switch all the ads from kind of the closed in and really highlight, or I guess I shouldn't say closed in, cozy ads maybe of inside the unit, looking at the kitchen and some different in unit amenities, but now shifting it to looking at kind of the outdoor spaces. It's pool time. Not all of us live in Florida, so the pool season is only part of the year for the rest of the world. And then again, you can see here, looking at showing the dog park and really just kind of highlighting all of the outdoor amenities that will be able to be used here as we head into spring and summer based on the way that things are trending. So it'll be important to kind of include those so that way residents know what they'll be able to use this summer. And then last is, again, the flexible and virtual tour options. And so being able to highlight virtual tours, flexible tours, and even including some of the videos inside of ads. So you can see here, there's a couple of videos where it's highlighting specific floor plans. And so we have, this is a 2-bedroom, maybe a floor plan that the community is trying to, they have a lot of them and they're trying to get those leased up. And so being able to highlight those specifically goes a long way in getting more engagement on your ads and increasing your conversion rates. And so these are just some good examples of mixing and matching things to try and appeal to the broadest set of prospects that you can, and then really just pushing people toward your site and giving them a lot of different options to check you out. Question is, are you able to incorporate real link videos into your ads? So yes, if you have a real link video, it just has to be hosted. We just have to upload it into, if we're going to run it on YouTube or run it on Facebook or wherever. Yes, real link videos can be hosted. And we actually, with the Conversion Cloud, our scheduling tool and our offer management tool, we have a real link integration where we actually will put, you can put the call to action on your website of a virtual tour, and the real link video can be what goes out to the prospect once they fill that form out. All right, Joe, now we've talked about kind of what we're seeing demand side and some of the ad performance examples. Why don't we talk a little bit about spring strategy? And rather than shifting it over, because it never seems like it works right, you just tell me when you want me to click the button.
I was just, all of a sudden I started looking for the button. So yeah, no worries at all. So yeah, obviously, Andrew, your data points will speak very clearly to some of our spring strategies we are going to recommend. In looking at those data points, some of it may be a little obvious, but I think nevertheless, we need to definitely point out a few strategies that as a company, we do recommend and that we're seeing out there. So let's go ahead and take a look at the first slide there. We're going to be talking a little bit about paid search, the display retargeting that Andrew mentioned, some of the social paid social stuff, and then of course YouTube. But these are definitely the top channels that we are seeing this spring for 2021. All right. The first one is really paid search. Obviously it's all about being, rising to the top, being seen, being viewed, so it's about investing into paid search. The reason you're going to get a really great bang for your buck out of it now is the fact that, there is this rise in the spring that we're seeing, more of a rise now than there was last year. So as you go into the spring, and then of course it peaks in the summertime and falls off a little bit in the fall, you're going to get a really great value for what you're putting out there. So, with the number of individuals that are now searching out there on Google, basically it's really underpriced compared to what it was, pre-pandemic. And, we're really recommending that this is where you want to start to double down on paid search, because you're going to get a much greater value, as we've seen coming out of 2021, coming into winter. All right, Andrew. Display retargeting. This is where I was laughing with Andrew earlier. I am a complete victim to this myself. It's it's all about impressions, and I think, as we all know, it takes 7 or more times for people to actually see things before they really take action on it. And display retargeting is really about making sure that your community is top of mind. Let's face it, the leasing cycle is long. People have extended that. We saw that last year in 2020, where it was a longer buying cycle for individuals. And this is where you need to not only get in the game early, but stay in the game with retargeting, because this will carry you straight through that higher leasing, or that higher the views that are being done right now through Google, where you're going to see that from the spring into the summer. So you'll get a great impact on retargeting right now. And it's a tremendous opportunity right now with the value that's there also. So we really do recommend you looking at retargeting as part of your strategy for 2021. Let's take a look at the next one. Paid social. Facebook and Instagram, still very, very popular social websites out there. Social media channels, I should say. And that's where, again, what we've seen over the last year, I think we all can attest to this, that there were many, many more users on these platforms come the pandemic. And all of a sudden, the value of those platforms were huge. So, pre-pandemic, the value was, X, but now with the amount of users on these platforms, you're really going to get a great bang for your buck putting in some paid social into Facebook and Instagram. So it's really about value here. This is where, you want to look at extending your reach to all of the individuals out there on all the different channels. But we're still seeing that. We're still seeing the high levels of individuals engaging with Facebook and Instagram, and certainly one you've got to continue to stay on top of. All right, next one. As Andrew talked about with the YouTube ads, I think someone even mentioned about where we're seeing YouTube go. It's continuing to rise, as we're seeing. Going into 2021, the amount of individuals that are searching and finding YouTube ads and finding the placement of those ads, are tremendous. And we're seeing a huge growth in that coming into 2021. And we certainly expect that to grow into the summer. One thing to keep and point out here is that there are really interesting keywords, that can be searched through Google to help find your community and find you through those ads. So you want to take a look at some of that stuff within your ad placement as well. All right. So now you've done all this, right? You've said, okay, Joe, we're going to go ahead and you're going to try these 4 strategies. All right. But now what do you do with them? I think it's important to make sure that you're optimizing your website for those conversions. You've done everything you could to get people there. What is it that you're now saying to those individuals that have made it to your website? Where's that call to action? Where is that self-schedule virtual or in-person tour, button? Where is that opportunity for them to take that action? Promoting your concessions. In your ads, you talked about, opportunities and special concessions, if you will. Where is that link now on your site that takes them right to that? So you want to make sure you're offering those types of opportunities directly on your site. And one thing I always like to put out there is answering questions. I think it's important that many people will start to go to your site, and we have a text us button, for instance, text us now, and it's not an AI bot that'll just spit back an answer here or there, or answer some questions. And some of them are, pretty good and so forth. But, the questions are much more complex these days. And I think with everyone searching and being online, it's so important to have a real live chat button available when it comes to engaging with your customers, because their questions are going to be vast. So you've got to be able to make sure you're answering those questions, pretty much as accurately as you can and as efficiently as you can. So again, we could talk about all these different marketing, opportunities. making sure you're going down the right path, choosing the right strategy. But it's really important to make sure that when they get to your website, that you are actually optimizing your site as much as you can right now, especially given the amount of individuals that are going to be out there searching this spring, going into summer. We're already seeing peaks in every one of the areas we talked about. So you really want to make sure you're capturing as much of that attention as you can. And of course, it's all about the pre-qualified leads, getting leads through your system. All right. So really, let's just talk about some of the next steps. Some of the key takeaways. Obviously, there's a much more robust, year over year website engagement, and you're going to see that much earlier. Well, we're seeing it already earlier than we did last year. Now that could be, more people are getting back into it, but clearly some of the stats that Andrew showed were before COVID. So we're even ahead of those numbers. So keep that in mind. So invest in the right strategies. Look at paid search, look at retargeting, Facebook, YouTube. Really look to see what works for you, what works for your market, and then reach out and try to make that stuff happen. And of course, top performing ads, aligning your messaging and imagery. So important. It's one thing that, you can do the ads and you can get the concessions on your website, but when it comes to the visuals, make them current. So important to make sure that you're staying current. I think Andrew referred to a cozy room as to getting out here in Florida, but yes, it's all about staying current and updating your imagery. All right. So really take that next step. I think it's up to us to all, to really look at how we are building our spring strategies. How are you building your spring strategy? Take a look at where the opportunities are for you as you're looking at that growth and where your opportunities are, whether it's spring into summer, whether it's capitalizing on everything. That's really where you need to be looking at that marketing strategy right now. And, if you need help, we've got a great group of sales consultants that can help you. Just reach out to us. We'd be more than happy to help you. Some really great experts on our team that have been through this, that consistently know directly how to direct people and where they need to be, for their particular market. And if nothing else, visit us at conversionlogix.com. We do have a schedule button there. So if you need to schedule an appointment with us, we'd be happy to consult with you. So with that, Andrew, I think I'm going to turn this over to you. This is really about our next webinar. I know you're kind of excited about this.
Yeah, I think, and this is great because we had actually a couple questions coming in about YouTube and video in general, but, really it's how is video going to continue to change and become important in 2021? And so, looking at examples of, true stats of, in real life, community examples of YouTube campaigns that are driving real results, not just getting views, but actually driving action on a website and leading to leads and leases. And so, and then also looking at, other virtual technologies like, somebody mentioned RealLink earlier, or a question came in about RealLink or other video platforms, and how do you integrate that into everything else that you're doing? And how can you get video into your ads? How do you show virtual tours in your Facebook and connected TV and YouTube campaigns? And so really, it's really about getting more visual, and people are doing more of the leasing journey online than ever before. And so we expect that to continue. And so how do we get the best, example of our community, the best, videos and everything in front of them to help them make that decision. And so that will be April 28th. And we'll be excited to hopefully have you all back on here. And so thank you for joining us. And then before we, I guess, as we dive into questions, we've answered a few as they came through, just because I want to make sure that they were timely for everybody. And then while we're looking for a couple of questions to come in here, I'm going to throw up one last poll, and it'll just be about, really just about this webinar. We want these to be valuable to you. We hopefully that they are. We hope that they are. And so if you would take a moment and give us some feedback on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to recommend somebody watching this webinar? Hopefully you found some of that data interesting, and And then if you felt like it wasn't very interesting, feel free to shoot me an email. I think you can just reply to any of the reminders that showed up in your inbox for this webinar and just tell me, hey, I like this, I didn't like this. You won't hurt my feelings. And yeah, we just want to make sure that you're getting the most amount of value that you possibly can. So yeah, anyway, that's pretty much it. And I guess one last housekeeping piece is that we will be sending a recording of this after the fact, and you'll be able to download the slides from our website.
And also, Andrew, you should mention that if anyone is interested, we do have, as you've mentioned, the videos and the webinars we've done over the course of the last couple of months, even from last year. All of those are downloadable from our website.
Yes, yeah. So if you want to relive the scary COVID times, you can go back and listen to us about a year ago, and when we're trying to figure out what's happening and what to make of all this crazy changes. So
a lot of great stuff there, though. A lot of great videos are in there.
Yes, definitely. All right. Well, it looks like that was pretty much all of the questions that came through. They came in early, and so I think with that, we'll go ahead and let everyone leave. And so thank you all for taking the time today. Again, for those of you that answered that it's steady, hopefully you start to see that steady change to a holy cow as some of these searchers turn into leads and then leases for you. So have a great one. And Joe, I will talk with you later. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah, everyone have a great day.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.